Welcome to yet another episode of Third and Short, where we talk sports. You already know what it is. It's your guy, Nick Nice, a.k.a. Big Nick Energy, in the place to be. And I got my dog, Jay Plum, with me. Jay, what's going on, man? Plum in the building. What's happening?
You already know, man. Back for another wonderful week. Excited. Can't wait to talk about everything that happened in the NBA this past week, and all of this good, juicy stuff that we got to talk about. It's been a good one. How about yourself?
Absolutely. And you know what? I was so excited to talk about sports. I forgot to remind the people to like, subscribe, follow, share, and all that good stuff. Of course, we got the merch, y'all. Check out the BLC store for the merch. You dig what I'm saying? But man, there's just so much to talk about, I guess. Let's start with the NBA. Right? Because with the NBA, man, the first round is already over, man. So what are some of the main stories, the main things that caught your attention at the end of the first round?
Man, there's a couple of things that we got to look at the first round. Let me start here. As a dear Miami fan, I got to tell Pat Riley, it's time to step down. Between the ass whooping they took and the way that people are no longer coming to South Beach right now, I think it's a big issue and something they definitely need to look at. So that's one of my big takeaways from that loss to the Cavs in that playoff series. Second thing that I can tell you that I want to look at is OKC is must-see TV. And I guess we're going to get a very good understanding of that with this second round playoff matchup that they're getting ready to get into. I also found out or believe that Denver ain't done yet, just like we just talked about with their matchup coming up. And Golden State, for now, seems to be playing with house money, especially with Jimmy Buckets back and the way they were able to claw out their way in that 7-game series. What about you? What are your takeaways from the first round?
I mean, listen, I know you love Miami, so I'm not mad at you for going there right at the top, right? But I mean, it's not like Miami was expected to do a lot. They traded Jimmy mid-season, right? And I get that things didn't work out with Jimmy. I mean, and I get that there has been some issues in getting free agents there, but Miami has done a pretty good job. I mean, they were in the playoffs despite all their challenges. So I don't know. That sounds a little premature. I don't know, but I do understand the whispers. I mean, I don't know. For me, the most intriguing one for me was Golden State, right? Starting with them. I mean, being in the 7th position, right, where people talked about going into the playoffs, if they were to land at this position versus facing, say, the Lakers, right, would they be able to kind of advance? And honestly, I think it worked out very well for them because ironically, as I think about Golden State, had they finished 6th, I think it's very possible that the Lakers would be the one moving on to the second round, right? It's funny how that works out sometimes in the playoffs. It's all about matchups. So because the Golden State Warriors ended up losing towards the end of the season, getting the 7th seed, there they go in the 7th game on the road against a much younger team, right, and being able to pull it out. So yes, right, that was certainly intriguing to me because with Jimmy being added in the middle of the season and how they improved, it's hard to really know exactly which Golden State who are they for real? Yes, we understand the impact of Jimmy, but they haven't had a full season. And yes, they are getting a little bit older, but to me, they're very intriguing. Also, the thing I thought about too was, you mentioned it earlier, was Denver is not done. You want to talk about change throughout the season? I mean, their head coach gets let go before the season is over. They change the front office or the management. And so everything. I don't know if whether or not the leadership thought that this is exactly what this team needed in order to be energized, to be able to move forward. So I really feel like, especially, we'll talk about this a little bit later, but I wouldn't sleep on Denver right now when you talk about having the MVP and Joker. So I think for me, they reminded me that they're a dangerous team and that despite the challenges that they're facing right now, you know what I mean, that they may still be like a dark horse, even though maybe they shouldn't have never been in the first place. Those are the first things that I think that stand out to me the most. Coincidentally, they're in the West.
Well, you know, a lot of people say the West side is the best side in a lot of different ways. So speaking of which, I mean, we're wondering about a couple of different things also in that West matchup. Most importantly, is Ant-Man the new Sandman with the way he's knocking people in and out of these playoffs? So that's a big thing that I took from the first round. Indiana is right on pace and outpacing the rest of the class of the league, including who they're playing now, I believe, is the Cleveland Cavaliers in that first round. Beantown, still title town, the way they're looking. And I wonder if it'll be blue and white skies or blue and white sides for those New York Knicks.
You know, it's funny. This is a great opportunity for me to poo-poo on LeBron. I mean, listen, like I said before, last episode, and even on the other pod, I talked about how the Lakers would not move forward. But listen, you know, I'm maturing, you know, from week to week. And I really feel like maybe because we're, you know, moving on to the next round, that you're right. The way that Ant-Man was able to show up for most of the series, because that last game, he really didn't necessarily. I think his team showed up around him. And I think what it really exposed was matchups again, right? Now, granted, I do think this is going to be interesting, and we'll talk more about that. But I like the narrative around here comes Ant-Man. He took out KD, but KD wasn't really competing for nothing. He took out LeBron. I mean, I knew LeBron wasn't going to make it, so I get it. Right now, he has a chance to do what he does. But in the last season, that last game, though, I really didn't like it for Ant-Man. So I do think he's probably going to need a little bit more time. I think we're so ready to put a crown on him. And I think because he did it against LeBron. But I mean, listen, LeBron had an MCL injury, right? So that's one of the reasons why maybe he ran out of gas. Maybe he was a crap. Who knows, right? I mean,
I'm just like,
that guy.
come on with the injuries after the fact. I mean, I get it, but Jesus Christ.
Yeah. But also to your point, though, like, you know, because we had the sneak peek with Indiana Pacers and seeing how that team is playing and Tyler is playing, and how he was voted as the most overrated player. So this is a chance for him to prove himself against a team that honestly with the Cavs, we'll talk again more about that, but honestly going back to how he handled things with Giannis, I saw how he drove into the lane and won the game. And so I'm interested to seeing him. Does he take another step? I'm not gonna lie to you, he gives me corny. You know what I'm saying? He gives
there
me
seems
corny.
to be a lot of that going around the league right now.
There's nothing wrong with corny, right? I'm just saying, like, he gives me like that guy who's always had a chip on his shoulder. He wasn't always the cool. He went from Steven to Stephon at some point in his life, you know what I'm saying? He might still be going through that transition. So I see the way that because the way his father showed up too, right? So anyway, that's all old news, but I'm saying that the way that I think they played against them and the way that he showed up and the little preview, yeah, I'd be interested to see what's up with him, man, for real.
Well, you know, speaking of which, let's talk about it a little bit, because we are now, I believe, officially in the second round with these matchups. And to your point, with Tyrese Halliburton, not only is it all the things that you mentioned, it's also the fact of going back to the Olympic team. A lot of people had a lot of feelings about him being on that team in the first place. And the fact that he didn't really get to play, to do anything, people were sitting there saying, oh, he never deserved a spot. He wasn't good enough. He should be. I mean, they were mad at him riding the bench. Now, you got to be some kind of either bad or there's some kind of jealousy for somebody to want to hate on you just for riding the bench. So for me, what I'm looking at is that chip big enough to become a boulder and be able to use that to firepower to knock off the Cleveland Cavaliers, who looked stupendous thus far, including against Miami. But then again, to your earlier point, that's Miami. But now they're facing a different foe who, by the way, is more battle-tested than they are, because, again, Indiana last year was in the conference finals. Cleveland has not had that experience yet. So I'm very, very interested to see how that plays out as well with the star power on the court.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the thing, right? I mean, so I do think this is a series set up for Tyler to ball out a little bit because, I mean, I know, like, Cleveland is vaunted and taunted, or what's the word? Not even taunted, like touted as like being this really good team because of their record. But who are they exactly? I mean, we wouldn't really know because the NBA and the TNT and the powers that be didn't really care to show us a little bit because they're in a smaller market with like a medium star, for real. No knock to Donovan, right? He's balling, he's doing his thing. But listen, man, the people want star power, right? And maybe a little bit more height. Again, no knock against Donovan, but we don't know who they really are. I mean, they've done a couple of things in the past couple of years, but they haven't been like, oh my God, we got to be scared of them, right? So yes, this is a great opportunity for Tyler and the Pacers to pace themselves, right? Especially if they can hit those three balls the way that they were hitting them. I mean, honestly, especially in terms of how the size of Cleveland, where that's how you may have to be able to beat them a little bit. And again, they're an up-and-coming team. I do like the fact that a lot of these teams are up-and-coming. We're in that era where, yes, the old guard is slowly being ushered out. The new guard is hopefully coming in. We're hoping to see these teams become dynasties or even become credibly contenders for real. So, yes, I do think this does give Tyler and the Pacers an opportunity to prove themselves to be real because, honestly, yes, Cleveland has a really good record, but who the fuck are holiday again, for real, right? I mean, I get it. You know what I mean? So we'll see. But for me, even a bigger market team, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but like even with the Knicks and the Celtics, I mean, how you feeling about that, right? I mean, I know it's supposed to mean something, but does it mean something? Like, do you feel excitement around, this particular series or no?
So
do they have a chance?
So with all due respect to all my New York folks out there, don't nobody really care outside of New York. Why? Because nobody believes New York has even a sleeper's chance in this series. And they shouldn't, to be quite honest. Should they be able to match up better with Big Body Brunson? Sure. Should they be able to match up better with Cat? Depends on which Cat shows up. Is he going to be the lion or the scary Cat? So, do you see what I did there?
I did.
My problem with this is Boston is just way more talented. They've beaten them, I think, 4 of the last 5 times they played them in the regular season. If not all of the times they played them in the regular season. I think the Knicks got close in the last regular season game, took them to overtime. Oh no. I'm not terribly shook by New York. I think they're on the cusp of being able to come up, but I still think they're a few players away from being able to deal in the dregs of being a Boston or being a actual championship contender. So considering the fact that they're not really even a actual thought of a contender, like I actually think Indiana is more of a contender for the title than they are. That's for me why there's not really much of a story there, other than are they just going to show up? If they get 5 games out of this, I would be totally shocked. Matter of fact, I might put some money on it.
You giving them you said if they get a gentleman sweep, you'd be shocked? For real?
Look, trust me, 5 games is a blessing. If they make 6, hell, I don't know. Let me think about it. If they make 6 games, I might make a bet on here and do something crazy.
I mean, okay, I hear what you're saying, right? I mean, because people talk about the regular season. The regular season is the regular season. I mean, who knows what was happening in bumblefuck April or March earlier in the season, right? So now it's playoff time, right? And we know Big Body Brinson, man, he gonna bring it. You dig what I'm saying? He's got toughness, he got tenacity. Them boys are playing together. I mean, I don't know. Can they beat them? Probably not. I don't know why I don't necessarily still believe in Boston. There's a part of me that just doesn't fully believe in Boston. I do get that they do great things, again, regular season, but something about them tells me that, yes, they did win the championship, kudos to them, but the year before, there were also certain breakdowns. And so I don't know. I guess we'll have to see, but I do think New York has a puncher's chance, you know what I'm saying? A slight chance, to win maybe 2 games at the very least. Unless injuries happen, then all bets are off. But the thing to me, though, in bringing it back to me, the star power here, this is when the stars are born, right? So I do think Tyler Brunson has an opportunity to prove himself to be that guy also, right? And that's why I feel like, yes, the Boston Celtics are champions, but I'm not scared of their number ones, to be honest. Their number ones don't, pump no fear in me, for real. And I don't know that it would in Big Body either, right? And I think if he has the tenacity in the will, I don't know. It's a puncher's chance, but I'm saying they got a chance.
I hear you. The only thing I say is, yeah, Brunson is going to show up. But the problem is everybody else. Again, is Cat going to show up? That's my big question surrounding this team, because he's played well in various moments, but then when they've also needed him in some of the bigger moments, he's not shown up, and he's been prone to do that, which is why they shipped him out of Minnesota in the first place. You see how Minnesota's doing this year. Speaking of which, that matchup in that series, man, that is something that is going to be some fireworks. I mean, we talking Steph, we talking Ant-Man, we talking legacies, we talking champion killers and all of this other stuff. This one is juicy with so many different storylines to go through. What's your feelings and takes on that Golden State Minnesota matchup?
I'm kind of torn, if I'm going to be honest, right? Because on the one hand, I kind of root for Golden State, like the elder statesman. I mean, I like the style of play. I like Jimmy. You know what I'm saying? I like Steph. I mean, there's a lot to like about this team, Draymond, right? I mean, to me, they're the last vestige of a dynasty. I would love the storylines if Steph were to win another championship in terms of this generation and where he stands amongst the pantheon of greats, right? He's just continuing to add to his legacy the longer he plays into the playoffs. So I think you have that. And then on the other side of it, right, you clearly have Ant-Man, whose style of play resonates with me, right? I mean, the brother balls, the swag, the way that he moves. I don't know the last time I was probably this excited about a player, pause, right? I feel like one of the baddies who are sitting there trying to get tickets to the front. You know what I'm saying? Because he is a show. You dig what I'm saying? Like watching him play and just the swag and the attitude he plays with. I mean, people have already said it, so I'm not going to say anything new. Like, damn, he look like Jordan. Yeah, like we miss that energy. Like Kobe has some of that. I mean, listen, no knock on LeBron necessarily, but we like guys who play a certain type of way. And so, yes, I kind of root for him. Unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, he's going against Steph. Can he add to his legacy? But the truth is, I don't even really know. If we're talking about championships and I had to kind of like place them, I don't even really know that the Wolves are ready for the championship stage, to be honest with you. And because of that, I kind of lean more towards Golden State because I think if they can get healthier and continue to round into better shape and get the type of contributions they've been getting from the Buddy Hills and all the rest of their guys, they can not only make this a series, they can win this series. And then to me, that adds more intrigue. Look, I love sports, but I love storylines even more. I love to root. I love the villain. I love the protagonist, the antagonist. And so in this particular case, it's a tough one because you have two potential protagonists. But so I'm going to enjoy it regardless. But I don't know, man. I think if you had to ask me who's most likely built to win a championship, if nothing else based off of guile and experience, I'd go with Golden State.
I hear you. I slightly disagree. I would lean a little bit more towards the Wolves in this one, just because from what I understand and from what I've seen over time, it's always the team that's on the come up, on the cusp, right on the edge that you see start to break through. For years in the East, it was Boston, Eastern Conference, till they finally broke through, got the championship. Now you see the Indianas on the Pacers on the verge of doing the same thing. Wolves were in the conference championship last year, got dismissed by Luka, big team, Dallas, all of that. I sincerely think the only team truly standing in their way is OKC, as far as being able to have a team that can actually fully match up and handle what Ant-Man and those guys can do when they're at their best. So I think, to your point, it's going to be a super awesome, detailed, nitty gritty. I'm sure there'll be a lot of choking. Oh, well, hopefully not from Draymond, of people. But this series should be off and swinging heavily.
I mean, absolutely, right? And you mentioned, OKC, and maybe we'll talk about that real quickly, but I'll just say this, right? Going back to my initial point, which was that I just kind of feel like there's a maturation process, and I don't know that Ant is ready yet for that, because he is the focus and the star of that team, right? And so I feel like they're only going to go as far as he can go. And while this, whatever he does, it's still going to be an accomplishment. But if you look at the history, it's taking a star of his quality or caliber to play in the league for several years and go through the growing pains. So I don't know. I don't necessarily see that for him. Even if it's not the Golden State Warriors who stop him, I just don't know that he's ready, or that team is ready for like the ultimate prize. But if they were to get past Golden State, they would be playing OKC, you mentioned them, or the Denver Nuggets. We mentioned the Denver Nuggets earlier, right? Because, I mean, hey, they're here after a grueling 7-game series, even though the 7th game was not as grueling as they easily handled the Clippers. They handled it so easily that we barely even talked about it. We just, but
actually, they blew them out so bad, it blew my mind.
Yeah, and so now they're here against OKC, right? Which everybody, I guess, feels like OKC's that team. So what are your thoughts about this particular series? I mean, is it evenly matched? How many games? I mean, are you dismissing them like you did the Knicks? I mean, what you feeling?
Unlike the Knicks, they got championship medal over there in Denver. And you got that boy named Joker. And when I say boy, that's a grown-ass man. I mean, Joker is out here averaging 24 points on 50% shooting with 11.6 rebounds and 10.1 assists a game. That combined with Murray out here with 22.9 points per game, 5.3 rebounds, 5.9 assists on an 89% shooting at the free throw line is tough. They finally, to your point, talking about it earlier, picked up where they needed to get back into that gear of that championship level. and the role players and the star players are doing their parts and showing up. So with those numbers, I'm like, wow. If that can be consistent, it's going to present a problem. However, I do think OKC is the better team. To your point, I wonder, are they battle tested enough to be able to take that next step, just like we talked about with Ant-Man? I'm wondering now if SGA, our future, we'll say MVP, will have the mettle to play like an MVP in this series and show up to the level, because we know Joker is going to give you those numbers that I just gave you. We know that. So really, what it probably comes down to is the X factor on the guys around them in the supporting cast. I'm still not sold on OKC with them just yet. Need to see a few games in this series to figure out which way they are really going to be. What about you?
So, okay, listen, I don't need to see the series. Whether it's coming from the sticks, Denver in 6. I was going to add more to it, but I want to still share the sauce, especially since he's down. You know what I'm saying? I was going to ride.
I thought about it myself.
Everything. But here's the thing, right? I mean, I guess maybe because I'm older now, I know everybody's been talking about OKC. They got the best record. I mean, they damn near broke records this season. But I still don't believe. I'm sorry. They got to show me to do it. Like, name the last team that young that was able to do that thing. I just don't recall. Like, maybe coincidentally, maybe OKC, right? And they went against who? The Miami Heat, right? They were a young, up-and-coming team. They got did in 5, right? I think, if I'm not mistaken. If not, it was 5, right? So my point is that, and that was with KD and them. So it wasn't like they were a scrub team. Like, they were a dynamic team that could have been dynastic had they been able to keep that team together. And kudos to the leadership to be able to be back here with a young team that's going to be here, God willing, for several years. You have a bunch of young guys. So I think they're going to go through a maturation process, much like Houston did, like Houston will, right? Like most teams in the annals of the NBA. So for them, they got the Denver Nuggets, who are championship worthy. And the second thing I picked up from this offseason was that they were tired of Mark Malone. They were tired, right? They were done so with him. Because when you think about this team, essentially, they're the same team, right? For the most part, they're the same exact team.
Yeah, right? It's just the coach is different. It literally
right?
is the coach.
And I think a lot of times when they say, like, you're tired of hearing a voice, I wonder if was it Mark or Mike? I don't remember.
Mike Malone.
I wonder if after the championship, he became even more insufferable. He was like, okay, now that I got the ring, I can just kind of turn up a little bit. And unfortunately, or if that's what happened, it didn't work out for him, because now he might be out the door watching his team have a realistic chance to win the championship. And the thing for me that makes it different with Denver, it's all about the matchups, is you got what you said, Jokic in the middle. That dude does a little bit of everything, and he helps to kind of, I think, from an interior perspective, kind of change the game and dynamic a little bit to where certain teams may have an advantage going against OKC, but I feel like they got the personnel, they got the history, they got the dynamic players, they got the superstar names, they have the championship caliber to be able to beat OKC. So yes, whether you talking shit, whether you know what I'm saying, you're in the sticks, or whether you listen to your favorite dance mix, I'm going
you got Denver in 6. All right.
I feel like if it goes to a game 7, I just don't know. To me, if Denver stands a chance at winning this series, for real, I want to see them do it in 6. I just don't know if they're ready necessarily to do it in OKC in 7, because by then OKC would have probably gained enough confidence, and with them being able to have those young legs and that energy in that building, if I am Denver, I want to try to get this done in 6. If it's 7, then I can see OKC getting their asses whooped in 5 going against the team on the eastern side. But go ahead.
Hey, I am not mad at that. That's actually not a bad call when I think about it.
Yeah, because honestly, I don't think any team from the other side, listen, and then going back to what you said about Minnesota, right? Honestly, if I had to pick the series just based off of the team, I would probably go with Minnesota, if I'm being honest, right? But there was something about this time of year, there was something about these lights, there was something about the biggest stars that I feel like, yes, you got Ant-Man on one side, but now you got Jimmy Butler, right, and Steph on the other side. And if there was at least a Batman to Ant-Man's Robin that I felt like would measure up okay, it kind of goes back to that conversation we was having before, where it's like you got a canceler outer, kind of, right? Can Jimmy and Ant-Man semi-cancel each other out? Even if Ant-Man cancels, Steph out, you still got the wild card of Jimmy being able to do Jimmy things. And so on paper, they're a better team. But for me, that experience goes a long way this time of year. And so the teams that have the more experience, I'm more likely to lean with them.
We shall see. But
Sure.
speaking of which, and big star power, there's been a lot of talk going on about the future of two of the biggest stars from the championship team down there in Boston. What are your thoughts on the potential? And again, I say this very gently because there is nothing reported, there's nothing stated that this is going to happen. But there seems to always be a conversation or potential thought about Jalen Brown being the guy that they're going to, I guess, ship out if they have to from Boston.
Yes. So listen, for the people who may not be aware, right? So recently the Boston Celtics got bought for like $6 billion, yeah. Right. So you got to imagine the person, right? I think it was like a hedge fund or whatever, big money person, right? Came in, bought the team for $1 billion. Now their payroll is ridiculous. Right? I believe reported numbers was, for example, that they might even pay over $400, maybe $500 million in payroll. Meanwhile, I believe their revenue is around $450 million, right? So the point is that people are talking about as new ownership, you're coming in, you have this bloated payroll. How do you trim that down to become profitable? Because listen, this is a business. You get what I'm saying? At the end of the day, I get it, championships, we're sports fans and all that, but the owners and the people who run these teams and all that, this is a business. Right now, to be fair, the other side of that is that when you're in championship window season, oftentimes teams will go in to the luxury. But unfortunately for Boston, from what I understand, they're already the second apron. So that's where it becomes very cost prohibitive. So this story comes from the fact that just financially speaking, the people with the wherewithal understand that this team right here is not most likely going to be the same team that you see next year. So when people bring up Jalen Brown, why do they bring him up? Well, he's one of the two highest paid players on the team. If I'm not mistaken, somewhere about 50 million, okay? Because the way it works, just real quickly, when you start getting into the apron, you get taxed, like I think $1 for $1 initially, then it kind of gets multiplied. So for every dollar that you go above. So long story short, when you're trying to get rid of payroll, you might look at the person who's making the most money, but they have a roster damn near, if you look at the amount of money they're paying people, you would think it's like an all-star team, right? Because Drew Holiday is getting paid 30. What's the tall white boy? He's going on his second year. I forgot his name just off the top of my head real quick.
I want to say Karolinko, but I'm so wrong.
You look like the dude from the Rocky movies. If he breaks, he breaks. If he dies, he dies.
Let me not do Drago like that.
Right, but I'm saying so that's why, just giving some background. So the question I'll turn it back to you though, Plum, is that I think the math makes sense in terms of why people will look at either Jason or potentially Jalen. But the question I have for you though is, if you were them, let's start from an easier perspective. If you were the new ownership, what would you do or how would you approach shaking up this roster? And would you potentially move a Jalen or a Jason in order to do that?
It'd take a lot for me to break up this duo that I've had for 5, 6, 7 years, finally gel, get together, learn that they can play together. Yes, you're talking about $600 million between two players of just money. That's a lot. But when you think about that setup, you got two alpha dogs on one team that can really coexist with each other. If that's the case, man, I am selling the farm. I don't care. Porzingis.
There we go.
Holiday. Anybody, everybody else on the roster can go. You can build around those other two. For me, it's too much talent to give away unless you're getting somebody in return like a Victor Wembanyama or something of that nature, which no team is going to give up anything or any capital that size. I mean, then we did just see Luka get traded, but then we also saw why. I don't see a reason to get rid of either one of them when you could just rebuild around them. However, we know how this game works. And again, to the money factor, somebody's going to get traded. And me personally, if I had to, the only reason I think people lean towards Jalen Brown more now is basically because of maybe some knee issues that he suffered recently, that they're starting to wonder if he's got any health issues on that. But if you're talking game for game, I don't see a reason why you would even lean in his direction, to be quite honest.
I mean, okay, can we keep it a buck real quick? Because first of all, let's keep it a buck, okay? The reason why people would consider moving him over Jason Tatum, I'm gonna get to that in a second, but let's talk. I got you teasing a little bit before I can just give it to you right now, right? So I do agree that I think two things are gonna happen. Number one, they are gonna break this team down. Porzingis is cool and everything, but to me, it's like, okay, he's a luxury to a certain extent, right? Because he's going to probably command a certain amount of money to, and I mean, do you really want to pay that? Between him, Drew Holiday is getting older, right? So I think you can probably maybe find you somebody that's serviceable in that position to a certain extent. So I do get, hey, we can get rid of other people, but rebuilding isn't the easiest thing. Sometimes you got to give up a major piece in order to give you the kind of pieces that you would need in order to have a long-lasting rebuild. Now, also keep in mind that, listen, if I just won a championship one time and then maybe two times, I get that maybe for the third year that's running back. The minute you lose, we breaking this thing on down, right? So it may not happen next year. But if you lose this year, though, then it opens the door for things to be moved. And here's the thing, right? Listen, Boston is not the most progressive city, does not have the history of being the most progressive. If you're talking about between Jason Tatum and Jalen Brown, one person can probably be the poster child for a city like Boston, the other most likely not, right? The guy who is more conscious, the guy who maybe speaks out or who might be too smart as people. How is it that the guy who is the MVP, right, during the finals and won the championship, who's getting paid the same amount of money, but is probably not seen as the number one guy? And this is not just by Boston. This is also by the media. I think low-key is complicit, right? To allow for Jason Tatum to be that guy. Now, I do think there's undertones of colorism. I think there's undertones of nigga know your place. I think there's undertones of not here in Boston if we're keeping it a buck. So if you do see Jalen Brown moving, I think that's not only the reason why, but that's also probably the reason why you don't see him being pitched as one of the new faces of the league. The reason why Jason Tatum can feel some type of way, even though he ain't play in the, during the summer. He didn't play in the Olympics much, or at least in a couple of games. Well, guess who wasn't even invited? Right? Was Jalen Brown even invited? Should he have not have been? Right? So let's
there was discussion around why he was left off as well. So
absolutely. So to me, when you look under the hood, or if, I don't mean like a KKK hood, even though technically if I was a rapper, that would be a bar. But the point is, when you look under the hood a little bit, there's some subtleties in terms of why Jalen Brown is not being seen as a future face of the league. And yes, it's mighty convenient that, oh my God, he has knee issues. I mean, they've been hurt throughout their earlier parts of their season. So somebody to make it seem like, unless it's chronic, unless it's something we don't know about, okay, he's going through a little patchy patch, right? But the truth is that might be subtext, but then to be able to say, hey, he's the guy that's available right now for any team, and I don't know that I can necessarily be mad. But to your point, if you can call a thing, maybe they won't do it, but our job is to say, hey, man, I smell something a little fishy here. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's exactly what's going on with them. So mark my words, I do think if they lose this year, that team is going to be broken down, and I think one of those stars are going to be moved. And if I'm being honest with you too, low-key, if I'm Jason Tatum, I'm okay with that. Because it's hard for me to become the guy on the team when I have another guy who, to your point, might be equal in terms of value, in terms of playing style, in terms of his abilities. So if I really want to become the man, if I really don't feel like I'm getting the kind of respect, well, then maybe I need to really make this my team. And Jalen Brown don't sound like the type of brother who's going to sit there and step to the side just to allow you to do your thing. So yeah, maybe low-key in a soft, non-way. It's like, yeah, how'd you feel about moving him? Hey, man, I understand the team got to do what the team got to do. You know what I'm saying?
That's true. This is very true.
You feel me? But listen, I mean, is there anything else on this particular story? Because this last story we're going to talk about before we get up out of here is Bill Belichick for a shorty who's like 24 years old. You know what I'm saying? Apparently during an interview, by now everybody's talking about it, but by now, during the interview that he had, I believe, with CBS Radio, Bill Belichick was...
CBS Morning News.
CBS Morning News, my bad, I misspoke, right? So boom. And then they asked him, like, so how did you and Shorty meet? Shorty's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. So that's how she kind of became into the lexicon, if you will, right? Like, now we know about her because that clip went viral. And then, of course, on the heels of the Shannon Sharp situation, people are looking at the age difference. It's like, damn, who is she? Turns out, low-key, she might be his boo thing, who might be also doubling as a publicity person, a press secretary person, a real estate person. Like, she's doing a lot for your boy, right? And lastly, he just got the gig not too long ago to be the head coach of the University of North Carolina, where he hired his sons to get a chance to nepotise their ways to getting a head coaching job in the future. I'm sure that girl is probably too young even for a son. But anyway, But what are your thoughts about like the double standard, right, between Bill Belichick and Shaq? What are your thoughts about this whole thing, fam?
It's so much. There's so many factors in this dichotomy of this thing that's going on. Like, first of all, shout out to Shorty, who has amassed, I think, like a $6.9 million portfolio, in real estate portfolio, in like a matter of months already. I need to be on that kind of timeline because that's really working out well for her.
Do you have a vagina?
Also true.
You gotta start with one of those.
You gotta start. For me, I think the biggest takeaway for me is just, I'm like most people, I'm just blown away that this is the new Bill Belichick. Or is it? Was this the Bill Belichick behind closed doors? Like, was this the Bill Belichick that, I heard from various sources now that people have said that from former players and stuff like that. And he's always been a personable guy. And he's always, I guess, kind of liked his fun boo things on the side, if you will. But he always kept most of it discreet and to the side. So to see a guy who's always preached on to next week, this is the thing, not have control in some aspect of his personal life, is just mind-blowing and shocking, let alone the amount that he's out there. I mean, it ain't just this. You got to understand, it goes all the way back to when we got pictures of them on the beach doing yoga poses and all this other crap, and we're just sitting here like, who the hell is this? And at the same time, to your point, how is this helping recruiting at North Carolina, who also had to put out a statement following the CBS thing, who CBS also put out a statement saying there were no guarantees. This was an interview. We never said anything was off limits. So I don't know what in the world is going on with this shit show, but I can tell you one thing. It is very intriguing to see the difference in how Bill Belichick is being treated with the youngin, as opposed to your point, how Shannon Sharp has been being treated with his whole thing. And I don't know that there's necessarily that big of a difference.
Well, there is. I'll speak to that just real quickly. There is, because the young 24-year-old lady is not suing Bill Belichick. She seems to be arm in arm. Now, if she were to file a suit down the road, then yes, I think we'll see at least some tinge of the vitriol, because she looks like she's not only willing, but she's there in various capacities. But, the thing is, if I remember correctly, Bill Belichick was divorced in 2006. So homeboy has been free or single for the most part in 20 years. And we haven't really heard a lot about his personal life in those 20 years, right? And so he steps away from the NFL, or he's kind of pushed away from the NFL, and he finally lands in the opportunity in college, so good for him, especially it being his swan song. And so now he's on his book tour, right? It's like, hey man, I'm outside, about to make it do what it do. This is not the first time that they've been seen publicly, to your point, but I do understand where Bill Belichick is coming from, right? I want to, even when it was the whole Shannon Sharp thing, right? For me, I don't judge people. Like, I try not to, because I don't understand, I don't know the details of what they got going on. Right. We assume that a person being a certain age means a certain thing. We don't know. In this particular case, for example, he's 73, she's 24. There could be a case that's made that she's the one taking advantage of him.
Agreed.
Right? Versus it being just him taking advantage of her, right? Because unfortunately, as people get older, their faculties and stuff like that, right? So to your point, he's done such a good job of being buttoned up. But in this environment, though, he was sitting down for an interview for a book, right? So maybe this was like outside his wheelhouse. Shorty was like, hey, we're going on to chapter 3, right? She didn't say it like that, right? She stepped in and said, no, we ain't talking about that, because old boy was asking a personal question. Right. And so I just think that people want to jump to the age thing. Yes, it's not my type of time. But if I'm being honest with you, I can't tell you at 73 what I might feel like. You get what I'm saying? As long as it's legal, as long as it's I ain't breaking no laws, or it's mutually beneficial. You mentioned she had an $8 million fucking real estate portfolio. Okay, well, listen, if we ain't breaking no laws, if she's cognitive of what she's doing, if she's getting, benefits from it also as well, it's not like my dick is probably doing the best that it's been in years. I'm fucking 73. Viagra and all. She might low-key just be sitting there patting him on his back, on his knee, burping him.
Baby, it'll be okay.
Changing his drawers. You know what I'm saying? Like, nigga, if I'm 73, instead of having an old nursemaid, you mean to tell me I can have a little tenderoni that can come and do some stuff for me real quick? I can take her college tuition and we both straight. You dig what I'm saying? Shorty did her fucking job. Yes, she might be the girlfriend, but the job description says a little bit more than that. You know what I'm saying? Part-time publicist. He's probably, getting his Ubers together, right? What is he eating? Making sure he's eating good, getting to his different appointments and whatnot.
He's in the yoga, so...
You know what I'm saying? Low key, bro, she's probably giving him a second life in his life. You know what I'm saying? At 73, bro was married for 20 some odd years, fam. You know what I'm saying? He did what he was supposed to do.
Well, let me
get
ask
what
you.
I'm saying?
Let
Huh?
me ask you this.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you think part of this is the reason either NFL teams passed on him, do you think there's any correlation to that?
Nah, I don't. Well, I guess in retrospect, maybe, but no. I think, a lot of people, his time in the NFL was just up, bro. Like after Tom Brady, he had his last couple years. People don't want to go back to that way. I think he's stuck in his ways. So people decided to move forward in a new direction with young people. Nobody wants to have the legend of Bill Belichick kind of like breathing down their fucking neck. So I don't think that had anything to do with it necessarily. I just think that his time is up. Like a lot of people's time do go up, right? That's why, like, I think it's so easy for us who are not in the position of age to want to judge people when they're there. I mean, granted, Shannon is not as old and he's being accused of some really horrendous thing. But when you think about Bill Belichick, though, like, again, at 73, I think we'd be, foolish to just assume that somehow he's power dynamics and taking advantage. Yes. Does he have money? But that doesn't always equal to power dynamics because guess what? Women have vaginas. And that's powerful.
That is very powerful.
We've seen that be used and deployed to bring down kingdoms and countries, right? So it's not like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
They've
right?
made songs about it and everything.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, let's add to the last thing I'll say about this too, we can just go ahead and wrap it on up. But to your point, people say that Bill Belichick, outside of his, gray hoodie vibes, he's affable, he's personable. They say he got a personality, say he's funny, he's charismatic. You get what I'm saying? So he just kind of shows us that we don't be knowing people. Just because he did a great job of just giving you Bill Belichick at the job doesn't mean that he wasn't Bill Belichick getting his knob slobbed on by Shorty
At
after
home.
he got
That is true. That is very true.
So with that being said, Love, what are your thoughts about the second episode? You know what I'm saying? Bringing it back, the redo, third and short. How you feeling, my guy?
Man, it's always the good to get up in here, talk sports with you, let the people know how we feel. You know what it is, folks. Like, share, subscribe, comment. We want to hear from y'all. We want to know what y'all think about what we think, and we can get back to you.
That's right. And if you disagree, I dare you to say something in the comment section. I dare double dog dare you.
I bet you won't.
Matter of fact, the best comment, you might get you some free merch. I mean, I just made that up on the fly, but you can go to the website at theplcstore.com and check out the merch. But on behalf of my guy Jay Plummer in the building,
You
Nick
know what it
Nice,
is.
aka Big Nick Energy. We'll see you next week at the same place, same time. Until then, be easy. Peace.
I'll at your boy.
Pew, 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 pew.